Hello and welcome to the Blackout podcast where I get to talk to amazing people who do amazing things. And today I'm so freaking excited because I love DJing. Well, I just started, but it's great to have Aaron Dole, the founder, DJ, producer, Modus Music Group. Thanks for coming to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, man. This is really cool.
So, yeah, what is Modus Music Group?
Modus Music Group, how do I start? So we do three things essentially. So thing one is we have a DJ and music production school called Mix Academy. So it's like an umbrella for three things. So we have Mix Academy where we teach people how to DJ the right way, I like to say, how to make music. We have beginner, intermediate, and advanced courses. It's pretty small, but mighty, I guess you could say. The other thing that we do is Sound Lab, which is essentially corporate team building type stuff through music education. So instead of I don't know, going ziplining for the dozenth time or whatever it is that your corporate team does, you can come to us or we'll come to you and we'll teach your team how to, make a house track in an afternoon or something like that.
That is freaking cool.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Versus going to an escape room.
Yeah, exactly. That's a better example than ziplining. But the idea is it can be, we can tailor this to be kind of just like a fun afternoon for everybody where you get to know so-and-so from accounting better or whatever. Or you can come to us and say, look, my team is really struggling with things like giving and receiving meaningful feedback, right? So I can structure an afternoon for you that really tries to target that as a learning outcome, right? Where I teach you how to make music, but I also sort of inject that process with these little sort of purposeful roadblocks that force you into positions where you're trying to become better at doing things like giving and receiving feedback. I always use that example, but that's the basic idea. And then there's also Modus DJ, where it's what it sounds like. If you would like me or one of us to show up and DJ your private event or wedding or whatever, we do that as well. Right now, the thing that occupies the most of my time for sure is Mix Academy, the school.
Yeah, that blew up. I have a friend, Montreal.
Oh, your friend? Oh, yeah. She's a great student.
The thing is, it's one of those things that I was like, I wish I knew, right? Because all DJ, but it's just like, okay, try and fail and watch a YouTube video versus getting hands-on. So I sign up to Mix Academy. What happens?
You sign up, so you come in. We teach you, so how do I explain this? We teach you in the analog realm to start.
Oh!
Yeah, so just to start, and the idea behind this is you should learn kind of the absolute like bare bones sort of fundamental stuff so that if you get a good handle on that and you learn how to do things like mix by ear, right, where you're not looking at the numbers, you're not using sync, you're not doing any of that stuff, you're learning how to do it by ear, that will save you later on, right? And if you think about, I always use the example, like our motto kind of in the school is like, don't be like Grimes. I don't know if you saw the Grimes meltdown at Coachella when she couldn't perform. She'd been booked to DJ and paid all this money, and she was on stage, and she couldn't. Her files had been analyzed in such a way that the BPMs weren't correct. Oh no! Right, and so she had this sort of like pretty public meltdown. Yeah. She's like, I can't do this, and walked away. And every working DJ in the world was like,
okay, I have to go and find this on YouTube.
It was a pretty legendary.
Holy shit!
It was just a couple years ago, I think. But all of us who've been DJing forever were like, that's a really simple problem to solve.
You just listen
if you know how to DJ, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to skip a lot of steps now, right? To just go, I'd like to be a DJ, let me get the stuff. And so all I have to do is make sure this number and this number match up. And that's not, you can do that. It's possible. but you'll never be as good as if you actually learned the fundamental skills. So my friend Adam, really fantastic DJ Adam W, he's like, yeah, you're doing all the Mr. Miyagi stuff, right? The Karate Kid stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, right? Like I explained to people, I was like, look, there's going to be some stuff that's not particularly sexy, not particularly glamorous at the beginning, but this is a foundation upon which you can build all the other stuff. If you get a sense of how mixing by ear works, when you transition into the digital realm and you start using controllers or CDJs and Serato and Rekordbox and whatever, Tractor, then you are going to always be safe, kind of. And I've been in situations where I've heard DJs who, you know, if there's a situation where I'm like, okay, well, I'm done. I'm playing on one setup. There's two setups, and it's like, now it's your turn. You just mix into what I'm doing, and they can't see what I'm doing. I mean, I remember one person just panic almost, right? And I was like, no, just go ahead and mix into this. And I don't know how to. I was like, okay, well, to me, that seems crazy. I also like the idea of, you know, I think this is something that you should treat with some reverence and some respect, right? Like, I think that you should understand, if you're going to start DJing, that you're definitely not the first person to do this, right? And we're all just kind of standing on the shoulders of giants, of people who did this in the past, right? And so taking some time to learn the fundamentals of DJing, I think, is reverent and respectful to the people that did it before, and it's humbling to you in a way too, right? I tell people, it's like, look, if your motivation here is you just want to be a DJ, then go get good at TikTok, right? Like, you don't need me. Just go get good at TikTok and get a bunch of followers and have videos and do whatever. Light some stuff on fire, throw a cake at someone, whatever. Like, that's fine. You can be then go do that.
Right.
If you are interested in learning how to DJ, come see me. And I will definitely teach you how to DJ, and I'll teach you how to do it in a really sustainable way. So we start in the analog realm. That was a really long example. My father-in-law always says, I asked you the time and you gave me, or I asked you the time and you built me a watch, is what he says. But the idea here is, yeah, we start you off in the analog realm. Really basic stuff, like how does a turntable work? Like, how do you safely handle the tone arm? How do you safely handle the needle? How do you put a record on and take it off? How do you hold a record, right? And that's the first day. Then we work on record manipulation. You learn what's called the baby scratch, which is sort of a precursor to just queuing up a record to start it on time with the next record. We do a little bit of fader movement. We start beat matching. I had custom made records for the school that have different tracks at different BPMs and different genres. So you get to we start with house music, because I love house music, and I'm not disrespecting house DJs in any ways, but I think that's a great way to learn, with a 4/4 beat that has really sort of clear drum pattern, and the claps and the snares line up together. So yeah, we start with that, and then about halfway through we transition into using Serato. The idea behind that was, I didn't actually originally plan to do it that way. I thought the beginner class was just going to be strictly vinyl, but there's also sort of a recital, if you will, at the end, where all the different students meet on a Saturday night and they do little sets as a 3-hour performance, right? Like a night. Wow. And I knew that it would be more fun for everyone. It'd be easier for everyone to play the music they actually really cared about, instead of having to go out and, I was like, I don't want you to go out and buy 10 records and spend, $150 to $300 or whatever it is, right, to do this. So I think it would make more sense if we just do it on Serato in the digital realm at the end. So I made that decision sort of halfway through the first cohort to switch to that.
How long is that first, the beginner?
10 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah, it's an hour every week.
Yeah.
And you also get access to practice time. So if I don't expect people to have turntables and a mixer and all that sort of stuff at home. So you learn the concepts, you get to practice them a bit. We do a lot of beat matching stuff in the class, but then you can also come in, you can book 1-hour blocks to come in and practice by yourself if you want. Yeah, in the afternoons. It's a little tricky because, if you have a straight 9-to-5 job, it's going to be tough to find that time. I try to make time after some of the evening classes as well for people to come in.
Classes are in the evening?
Yeah. Yeah, right now they're in the evening. Might do some Saturday classes. Haven't sort of, depends on demand for that. So
What is the typical number of students in the class?
we're small classes. It's 4 to 5.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
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 because
yeah, yeah.
that's what's work. Like it
Yeah.
has to be really hands-on, right?
Yeah. I don't want it to be bigger
Yeah,
than that
yeah.
necessarily. I want everyone to sort of get a little bit of individual attention. So an example would be when we're working on beat matching, I will play a track or like a loop, drum loop or something like that, and everyone will have their headphone on and they have their own little workstation with a monitor, and they'll try to line it up, and then I say, put your hand up when you think
then
that
you
you've
gotta
got the
come and
beats
listen.
lined up, and then I'll come and I'll turn it on and we'll listen together, and I'll say too fast or too slow, right? And then they sort of hone in on it. But that I can really kind of make sure that everybody gets a little bit of individual attention that way.
So for the non-DJ interested folks, what is beat matching?
Beat matching is essentially just making sure that the song that is playing for the audience and the song that you're going to mix in, they line up in tempo and in terms of musical phrasing. I mean, the most important part is the tempo part, just making sure that the tempos are the same and that, you know, the kick drum and the snare drums fall in the same structure. And the phrasing would be mixing things together in a way where when one song, you know, the chorus of one song ends, then the verse of the song that you're mixing in begins, or things like that.
What are ways to now manipulate that tempo?
Well, you have a pitch fader that you can move around. So both turntables have a pitch or a tempo fader, depends on the brand, they call it different things. And so you can make the songs faster or slower. Now, when you're playing vinyl, that will change the pitch of the song. So if you speed it up a lot, you get into sort of chipmunk territory. And if you slow things down, it goes like that. When you're playing in the digital realm, you can change the tempo without changing the pitch. So you can start to do interesting sort of harmonic mixing, they call it, and that sort of stuff. But it's hard. Like learning how to beat match by ear is hard. And I tell some of my students, I'm like, just be kind to yourself, right? like it took me, with no one teaching me, it took me quite a while to get bad at it. You know what I mean? Like it was not an easy thing to do. You have to practice for sure. So we're at the point, we're just about halfway through the first cohort now. And so many people are now coming to me saying, like, I want gear, I want to get gear, because I know I can come in and practice here, but I want to practice all the time, right? So it's kind of cool
with
to
the
watch.
practicing, what are some, I guess, good practices for practicing?
Well, you can practice scratching and you can practice beat mixing. There are sort of set kind of drills that you can do to develop certain skills with scratching. And I'll be the first person to say I'm not like the world's greatest scratcher at all. In fact, I came very late to that side of things. I started DJing with drum and bass music in the 90s. And in our world here anyway, at that time, it was kind of, maybe not frowned upon, but it was kind of looked at as sort of like, why would you do that? And in some cases, it was almost looked at as like a shorthand for sort of distracting from the fact that you had whack records or something, right? Like, so anyway, all that to say is like old dog, new tricks. Like it's only in the last few years that I've actually spent any time trying to get better at it. And I've developed like my 3 little cuts that I use. But there are certain drills you can do to get comfortable with hand movement and fader movement and stuff like that. And that's more the Mr. Miyagi stuff for sure. And then with the beat matching, really the easiest way to start, I think anyway, is to take 2 copies of the same song and try to mix those together. And you can start with, you know, put them both at 0 tempo, right, as the producer intended, and just get used to sort of timing, releasing the record on time, hearing what success sounds like, and then, you know, changing the tempo. If you can do it with somebody else, like I do it with my students, where I play a sort of a master track and they try to mix the same track into it, but I say, look, I'm going to slow it down, but I'm not going to tell you how much. All you know is that your version is going to be too fast and you're going to have to slow it down until it matches up. And then I do the same thing with speeding up. And then I do sort of a mystery, is it too fast or is it too slow? and then we switch to mixing in a different track. And it works. It definitely works. But like anything, you know, that sort of 10,000 hour rule for, you know, expert level stuff really applies, right? Like, you definitely got to practice. Like, I've been DJing a long time and I still practice. I play vinyl all the time, and yeah, I practice for sure.
Okay, and then the producing side of the school?
Yeah, so that's a whole other thing where you can come in and you can learn how to produce electronic music, essentially, right? We teach you how to use Ableton Live, which is one of sort of the big digital audio workstations out there.
One thing I noticed about Ableton is like they don't do the subscription thing. You buy it, you own it, and
They do now.
Oh God!
Yeah, they do. They just introduced it like a week or two ago or something like that. Yeah.
No, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Cause like I'm trying to learn that, and I was just looking, and everything you have to subscribe, right?
I gotta say, you kind of sound like an ideal client here.
I know.
I'm just telling you.
I'm like, so Ableton, Ableton Live.
Ableton Live that's what I've been using for the longest time. I mean, the principles of producing music are identical more or less across all the DAWs. It's just kind of different workflows, but essentially they all do the same thing, and the sort of rules apply across all of them. So whether you're using Logic Audio or Pro Tools or FL Studio or whatever, it's basically the same thing.
Like
Digital Audio Workstation, I think, is what the W stands for. I don't even know. I'm pretty sure it's Workstation.
How do they, I guess, function? I mean, even though they're all different.
Oh man, so there's essentially two kind of realms that you can work in these things. So you can work in the MIDI realm, which is you have, for example, like a virtual sampler, let's say. And in that sampler, you can load different audio information, and then you can write or record MIDI notes that are essentially little packets of instruction to the computer or to the sampler to say, play this sound at this volume for this long at this pitch, essentially. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's basically how that works. So you could have a drum machine, for example, with different drum samples loaded onto it, and you say, at this time I want this kick played, and then I want this hi-hat played, and then I want this snare played, and then I want this hi-hat played again, and then I want an open hi-hat, or whatever, right? And MIDI is, let's say I write a drum track for a whole song, right? And I get to the end and I say, man, I really don't like this kick anymore. I want to put a different kick. It's really easy for me to just swap out the kick that is in my sampler for another kick. And all that MIDI information, all those notes are still there.
Still
and now
there,
it just says,
but
oh,
it sounds different
yeah.
based on the, okay.
Yeah, now the computer says, oh, you still want to play a note at this time for this long at this volume, but it's going to be a different sample being played. You can also work more in the audio sample realm where you're literally just sort of dragging and dropping onto a track in your DAW an audio file or bunches of audio files. So sometimes I work with both. So sometimes I just drag.
Yeah,
I want to use a kick drum. I drag.
Like a output or all those things where, like it's, you know, it's a song, but then they give you the pieces of the song and then you can put it in your stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're talking about stems, I think, right? Where where you have, you know, just the bass track, just the drums, just the so stems would be an example of audio files for sure. And stems has definitely sort of changed the game in production and remixing and all that sort of stuff in the last X number of years. But yeah, that's essentially, DAWs work like that. So you can arrange these sounds over time, and you can process the sounds. You can do things to them. You can add echo, or you can add reverb, or you can compress sounds to make them punchier or louder, or more sort of consistent volume. You can apply equalization to things and filters and all that stuff. I mean, it's a never-ending journey, right? Like, you're never done learning how to produce. Even
Okay.
the top mix engineers in the world, they're constantly, these guys all have, podcasts and stuff where they talk about different ways to do things, and you're never finished, right?
Let's rewind then.
Let's.
Like, what was the origin story for you when it comes to music?
Oh man, I mean, I guess it's the same kind of as everyone else in the sense that, like, your parents play music and you decide that you like some of it. I'm trying to think of sort of specific examples of stuff from my life. But my mom was really into music and would, on Sundays cleaning the house, she would blast stuff. She would often blast reggae, actually.
What?
But it was like, it wasn't like deep cuts or anything. It would be like, Bob Marley and the Wailers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then conscript my brother and I to clean the house with her. And so for a long time, I actually hated reggae because it's like I had like PTSD from that almost. But no, I don't know. I just sort of gravitated to stuff. I didn't really know why I liked what I liked. I just knew I liked stuff that in retrospect was kind of funky, I guess is the word for it. And really, like, two things happened that got me into DJing. One was, well, three, I suppose. I spent time living in Toronto with my dad when I was a teenager, and you're in a bigger city with a bigger scene and sort of more progressive stuff happening in the 80s when I was a teen. And so there was this club, like a dance club that was, I think, kind of all ages, called Focus. And I didn't actually go in, but a bunch of us who skated would like hang out outside kind of and just talk to other people, and you'd hear the music. And so you're kind of exposed to that. And I knew at that point at like 15, 16, I was like, oh, there's something going on here that I'm interested in. I don't really know what it is. At the same time, I spent time living in Auckland, New Zealand.
Oh wow, that's far.
Yeah. It was. I was sort of in between Toronto and Auckland around grade 11.
Okay.
And I was really big into skateboarding, like super. Skateboarding was absolutely positively my life. And one of the guys that I skated with, and I can't even remember his name, I just remember we were at Aotearoa Square downtown Auckland, where everyone hung out to skate at the time. And he's like, oh, you should come on Saturday. Like, I'm DJing at this club. And he's like my age, like 16 or 17. I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying right now. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. What do you mean you're DJing at a club? What is that? How does that work, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any money. I'm a kid, right? I don't have a job, really, right? And I'm like, you have records? Like, I don't get it. Do they give you records? Like, how does this work? Because the only way you could play at the time was on vinyl.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, different nightclubs in Auckland and downtown area take turns being all ages on Saturday nights, essentially. And he's like, me and my buddy DJ there, come by. And I think I came by and sort of like poked my head in and saw this happening and didn't really hang out that much, but like my memory's a little sort of blurred about this, but I do remember for sure just being like, oh, this is a thing you can do. And at the same time, living in New Zealand, they were way more in tune with what was going on in England. And this would have been 87, 88, 89-ish. I'm trying to remember exactly. I'm really bad with years. But so sort of early days of acid house and like the Manchester scene and all that kind of stuff. So I'm listening to college radio and I'm hearing early house music, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there's more going on before that, but for me, it was, for a lot of people, this was still kind of a new thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I was recording these sets and bringing them back to, I moved back to Halifax and brought them back to my friends. And I was like, you guys are not going to believe what's going on in the world. Like, this is, wait till you hear this music. This is going to blow your mind, right? And I like put in a tape for everyone and I'm like, check this out, douche. And like, almost to a person, my friends were like, that's gay. Right? And I was just like, what do you even mean? Like, I don't even know what. And I just knew at that point, I was like, I think I got to get out of here. Like, I think I got to go. I think I got to go somewhere. And so I ended up, so that was sort of the second sort of seminal moment, I guess, is that long moment of being in New Zealand and being exposed to that and being around a guy my age who DJ'd. I was like, oh, that's a thing you can do. That's crazy. The last thing was I finished high school, saved up some money, and went to Spain. And in Spain, I met this guy, and I definitely remember his name. His name was Guy Roberts. We met skateboarding at Plaza Colón in downtown Madrid. And he was a little bit older than me, and we were just talking about music, and he's like, what type of music do you listen to? And I was like, I listen to like hip hop. I like, like Third Bass and like Tribe Called Quest and Public Enemy and whatever was going on then. He's like, oh, that's cool. I listen to hardcore breakbeat. And I'm like, what? What's hardcore breakbeat, man? And he's like, oh, my friend Jay throws raves. So this would have been 91 or 92. Anyway, because yeah, he throws raves, and I'd heard about this, right? And I was like, I'm definitely interested in whatever this is, right? Yeah. He goes, yeah, and he does stuff at this club called the Paradise Club in Islington. He does a night called AWOL, and AWOL stood for like a way of life, and it was the epicenter, one of the epicenters of the very, very beginning of drum and bass music. Like before it was drum and bass jungle, it was hardcore breakbeat. And so he's like, yeah, I have tapes from there. Like Jay records all the DJ sets, and he gave me sort of masters of these things. And wow. He's like, well, let's go grab some beers, and my sister lives here, we'll hang out, and he put on a tape for me. And I was like, just like complete like slow motion head explosion. It was the very, very, very beginning of drum and bass music. And I was like, whatever this is, I'm like all in, 100,000% in. And he's like, oh, cool. Well, if you go to London while you're over here, I'll give you Jay's number. I'll tell him that you're going to give him a call. You can call this guy. So I go to London and I call this guy Jay, and he's like, yeah, I'll put you on the guest list for AWOL, and you can come by the offices and meet and everything. I don't know at the time that this is like the biggest deal, right? Like in retrospect, that this is like one of the most important sort of figures in the origin story of drum and bass, or one of the most important places. He also did these parties called World Dance, these giant rave things. But I went to his office and met him, and he's like, so you want to be a DJ? And I'm like, yes, please. And he gave me a big box of promo white label vinyl, right? He just said, here, take these, like go back to Canada and figure it out, right? And so I had this box of, unreleased or recently released material. I told him that I wanted to throw parties, like to throw raves. I wanted to figure out how to do that, and he gave me some great advice about that, and immediately moved to Montreal and started collecting records. So yeah, very long answer. Once again, I'm sort of like...
That is your thing.
It's kind of my thing.
That is your thing.
But yeah, those are sort of like the three things, just being around it a little bit, and then being around it a lot. Did the realization
ever come though? The third thing, like who you were and who he was, and how important that meeting was. Did that
in retrospect, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, I actually went back to London last month or the month before for a friend's birthday. A friend of mine who's a DJ and a producer, it was his 50th birthday, and he had this party, and he flew me out to DJ at it, and had all these great DJs there, like Mr. Thing and Danny Bound, a bunch of people. And he was like, well, while you're here, do this other thing for Reloop turntables. It's at the skate park. And my friend Guy still skates.
Oh,
and I
wow.
hollered at him, and I was like, hey, man, I think you know where I'm DJing at this thing for Reloop turntables. Come by. And I hadn't seen him since he actually came to visit here not long after we saw each other in Spain, but otherwise it had been,
years and years,
25, 30 years or whatever it was, right? So I got to see him and sort of tell him, I was like, dude, you played a really pivotal role in my life, right? Like you sort of explained to me that this was a thing, or showed me that this was a thing, and put me in touch with like a really important figure in that world, and it gave me like a real sort of jump start kind of. So it was kind of cool to tell him that. And I ran into a couple other people there. The guy that used to engrave his name on the records. He would not engineer, but he would master our records when I was making drum and bass music in Montreal. And this is this guy Simon from The Exchange, which was a mastering house. And the first time you'd see it on everybody else's records, right? Like all your heroes, you would see on the Run Out groove, you'd see Simon at The Exchange, and you knew like, okay, this is going to sound really good, right? And then like to get your own record with him on it, you're like, I've arrived, right? Like I've made it. And then so he was at this event too, and I'm like, oh my God, you're Simon from The Exchange. He couldn't possibly have cared less. It was pretty funny. I was like, dude, this is like, you're kind of like one of my heroes. And he's like, don't care. Essentially, it's pretty funny. Anyway.
Okay, so DJing is, DJing, right? How do you, I mean, not necessarily transition, but when did the production part come for you?
Oh, almost immediately.
No way.
Yeah. So me and some other people in Montreal got together and started throwing parties. I think our first one was in '94. I think so. I'm trying to remember. I'm really bad with the timelines, but 94, 95 was one of our first events. And I probably kind of bullied everyone a little bit into doing this, but I was like, let's take money we make from throwing these and buy gear. Right? And there were a bunch of us who were interested in it, but I was really interested in it. And I'm sort of out of that group of people, I'm the only one who continued on with it. So we got like a sampler, and we got like an Atari computer that had MIDI, and you had to boot it up off a 3.5-inch diskette, and like it was wild. But yeah, I think we got a Ensoniq ASR10 was our first like rack mount sampler with like just a little like LCD display thing, and like just like 4 arrow buttons kind of, and you'd load up like a drum loop. It sounds
so tedious to use. Was it difficult to use?
Oh, it was insane. It was insane. Yeah, in retrospect, it was completely insane. Making music. I mean, there were crazier ways to make music, like people making stuff on the Amiga with like almost like coding kind of. That seems much crazier to me, but yeah, we were definitely in the sort of MIDI realm of loading samples, chopping them up by hand, and then figuring out how to resequence them and all that sort of stuff. So I think, started making music in like 94, 95.
Wow.
Yeah, it sucked, but we had we signed our first track, me and my buddy Oliver, who's still in the music biz now, signed our first track with Basement Records, which was like a really important drum and bass record label from the UK. I think that was 96.
Wow.
And then it came out in 97, I think.
How did that feel?
Oh, I thought I'd won the lottery, right?
Okay.
Like it was funny because I was DJing and living in Montreal and sort of just doing that and just doing drum and bass stuff. And I started to recognize, I was like, dude, you can't do this forever. Like, this is a little bit crazy, right? Because you're also just like partying and whatever. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to set these sort of 6-month kind of goals, milestone sort of things. And if I don't hit, X amount of them in a row or something like that, then I'm going to bounce. I'm going to leave and move back to Halifax and go to university and become a teacher. And I just kept hitting these goals. Like it was like, get a record, produced, right? Like sign up with a UK label, so on and so forth, play overseas. And then like we went and played in Japan and play in the States.
God,
and we played all over the States and stuff. So like these things just kept kind of working out. I don't even remember what the question was, but
no. Like we're talking about the producing thing.
Yeah. So yeah, producing like started real early, like definitely got known for sure. I mean, everything was, it's so hard to sort of describe to people who weren't around at that time. Like this is all not pre-internet, but essentially pre-internet. The internet is a thing, but it's not the thing that it is today. Right?
Yeah.
So there were still these mechanisms in place, or this infrastructure of magazines and, real humans who wrote about music and that sort of stuff. And we got into that world, right? And so our stuff starts getting reviewed in like DJ Mag, which is still a thing now. It's a website and whatever, these American things. And it allowed us to travel around, and it was really cool. But it was hard to make money then, and there wasn't this big like festival infrastructure that exists today, and there was, you know, there was no equivalent of like John Summit or someone like that who just sort of like has this crazy like 2-year kind of meteoric rise where all of a sudden they're like helicoptering into gigs and stuff. Like that wasn't really a thing. Yeah, I always tell people starting out in it, it's not like I was like super famous or anything like that. I got to like live from doing it, and I got to travel and all those sort of things. But really, it was just like an evangelical mission, right? Like I heard this music in Spain, went to London, got to see it, you know, like went to AWOL. I'm just like, what? This is insane. And came back to Canada and was instrumental in getting sort of a drum and bass scene started in Montreal, started to travel and everything. But it was just because I felt like the world needed to hear this kind of.
Yeah.
And then like the planets kind of align where all of a sudden like drum and bass is cool and it's in like Toyota commercials and stuff, and people all of a sudden are like, well, who's the go-to drum and bass guy? And it's like that guy, right? And you're like, yeah, cool. And like, yeah, things just sort of work out. But like, I guess in a really roundabout way, what I tell people is like, do this because you love doing it. I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but if you're doing it because you're like, I want to headline Tomorrowland, I mean, I get it, right? Like that's not, it's important to have goals and everything, but if that's kind of, if you're like, I want to DJ and make music so I can be famous, like that's a terrible reason to do it, right? Or I want to do this so I can make lots of money, like that's also a terrible reason to do it, I think. But I'm also just like an old guy now, so you know, I don't know.
No, like, I'm with you on that, especially like with the ease to do it now. So like if you're doing it for fame or money or whatever, it can get pretty disappointing and discouraging.
Yeah.
But if you love it, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll just go and just play music for playing music. I think it has to start with you loving the music. Like,
yeah.
So for me, I love dancing, I love music and stuff, but like, I love house, but I think hearing Afro house, like, to me, it's like, it's always been house. I don't know why they added to it, but kind of seeing what it's become today, it's like, this is songs I've been, kind of the same vibe I've been listening to it. And to me, when I DJ, I'm like, okay, this is this cool song I like. I just want my friends to listen to it.
Yeah.
And I think that is what, like, whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. I just want to share cool stuff with my friends. And
yeah, that's
I'm
DJing.
like, I just want to.
That's sort of the essence of it.
Cool stuff with my friends. So let's go back to the school now. Like you said, the beginner and what are the next, like, I guess, levels for the DJing part and then the producing part?
So, I mean, we have these 10-week sort of units, right? So we have 10-week beginner, right? And you shouldn't expect after 10 weeks to be, you know, like main stage ready, right? But there is a recital and you do go out in a very low stakes environment and perform kind of in front of the public. And it's just, I tell my students just like, it's okay if you go to this thing and you suck, right? Like that's fine. That's part of the learning process. This is a good thing, even if that happens, right? To just go and sort of figure out what you need to work on, or, you know, what your comfort level is or whatever. And then after that, there's an intermediate 1 course where we start to get more involved in things like, you know, cool transitions, EQ techniques, using effects, library management, which sounds really boring, and it kind of is, but it's actually like a really important part of DJing, like just having all your stuff set up in ways that make sense and easy to find and that sort of stuff. And then more advanced scratching techniques, and that's where I definitely like leave the show, and I have a guy who comes in who's like way better at scratching than me, DJ IV. We haven't linked up yet, but it's definitely that's the plan as students progress through, you know, like you'll be in much better hands with him when it comes to the scratching stuff. The rest of it I can do with my eyes closed. That's not a problem. And then, yeah, on to advanced. And by the end of, if you were to take all 4 of those, I mean, the sales pitch is like, yeah, you're ready for, you're definitely ready for the main stage, the big room, or whatever you want to call it, you know?
Wow. Okay. And then,
same with the production. It's the same ideas, right? Like you get into more advanced mixing techniques and you do a deep dive on like, how does compression work, right? Like, which is kind of like this weird sort of mystery to a lot of people, and just little things like that.
Yeah. Because I usually hear, like there's the mixing, then there's the mastering and all these things. I'm like, oh God, I just want to know. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll teach you how to do sort of like a home master for your stuff, so that you make a song or a remix or whatever, and you're like, I want to play this out. I want to play this out and have it not sound insane, right? Like I want it to sound listenable, right? We can get you to that point. But, you know, there's definitely something to be said for finishing your track, getting a good mix, and sending it to a professional audio engineer, like a mastering engineer, right?
What do you love about the teaching part? Because like I just
love teaching. I was a high school teacher, junior high and high school teacher for 15 years on and off, right? So I eventually did move back to Halifax in 2001 or 2. Always wanted to go to King's College, and so I sort of blagged my way into that kind of, because I had like terrible high school grades, and I went to, where did I go? I went to Concordia for like 5 minutes for fine arts and dropped out, and but I ended up going to McGill as a mature student. They kind of like have to let you in probationarily, I guess. And actually the guy, I went to see some admissions guy, and he's like, oh, I go to all your drum and bass nights. And it's like, okay, cool. Like I think I want to be a teacher. And he's like, yeah, come on in. Like just take this course and this course, and if you can maintain a B average, like you're cool with it. And so I ended up transferring kind of to King's and coming back here. I lost track again.
No, teaching. We're talking about
teaching. Yeah. So how that all happened. Jeez Louise.
What do you love about teaching, though?
I don't know. I just like, in life, I just like hooking people up, kind of. Like, I like putting people together. I like solving problems. I like I meet you and you say, you know, man, I really need, like, I want to, like, step up sort of the video aspect of whatever I'm doing here. I'm like, I know a guy. Like, I love that. There's nothing for me. I just love going like, oh, you got to meet my friend. He's amazing. And he's, you know, interested in doing more stuff in the podcasting world or whatever, right? I just love that. And I love being able to do that with young people, I guess, sort of showing people how to, I don't know, hack the system. Like, I always would tell my high school kids, I'm like, you know that, and I'm saying this as respectfully as I can, like, this actually isn't that hard if you just, you know, come to class, and when I say read this thing, you go and you read it, right? And then I ask you to say something semi-intelligent about it later on. If you were in class and you read the thing, you're gonna be fine, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy for kids to feel like, oh man, this is so hard. Same with university, right? Like, just don't go out and party till 4 a.m. the night before an exam with your buddies. It's go to all your classes and read the books. Like, you're gonna do fine, right?
Talking about high school and stuff, I always love letting guests go with this question, and because it's someone asked me, blew my mind, and it's, you might have touched on this a little bit, but I'll still ask.
One of my 12-minute answers.
What is something that happened before you were 17 that played a huge role in who Aaron is today?
If I had to pick one, I mean, I did touch on it before. I think it was that experience of just hanging out at Aotearoa Square in New Zealand with one of the guys that I skated with. I cannot remember his name, and it's going to, like, haunt me. It'll come to me at like 4 a.m. or something. But anyway, and him just going like, yeah, I'm going to go DJ at this thing. Like, it's a job that I have. I'm DJing at this thing. I'm like, what? And just realizing at that moment that was something that I could do. It took me years to figure out how to do it. In fact, it took me years and a student loan to figure out how to do it, right? spending student loan on turntables and a mixer. But yeah, I think that would be the biggest like pre-17 moment of just as a kid just going like, this is a thing. Because when you're a kid, like these things just seem like magic, kind of like somebody just like sort of divinely goes like, you're a DJ, right? And like you can go do this thing here. And it's like, well, no, you just decide to do that. That's what this guy did. He just decided like, I'm going to do that. And I don't know, some of my students at the school like will talk about that. They'll sort of talk about like where they are and where I am with DJing. I'm like, right, but the only difference between me and you other than time is that I just decided to do it. All you have to do is decide to do it too, and then you can just will it into existence, right? So that means you got to practice and get gear and all that sort of stuff. But like, if you make the decision to just get good at DJing, you're gonna get good at DJing, right? Like,
wow, that is true. I love that advice, especially the ones you give your. Okay, you mentioned magic. I'm gonna let you go with a little bit magic of mine.
oh my God.
Yes. So,
This, I can 1000% say I did not see coming.
so like with a little bit magic of mine,
All right.
write a number between 1 and 60. Do not show me the number.
1 in 16 or 1 in 6?
60.
Okay.
You can point it to that camera when it's done so they know.
Okay. Bam.
Okay.
All right, man.
So my magic cards are going to help
You know,
me.
just the heads up, all I'm trying to do now is figure out how you do this, right?
So your number is going to be in at least one of these cards,
Yeah.
but it might be more than one. So I'll need your help here.
This says, oh, this is going to make me crazy.
Is,
Okay, go.
is your number in here?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it here?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I hate this so much. I hate not knowing how something works.
58.
The fuck?
Aaron, first off, thanks for all this.
No,
I'm going to listen.
No.
I'm going to listen
I wanna
to
know how
every
this works
single
now.
one of this.
Yeah, man. There's some sneaky West African Nigerian samples in some of that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, see if you can spot them if you're
Okay,
if you're into
thank
West
you so
African
much
music
for
like
this.
I am. Yeah,
And thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
my pleasure,
today.
man. You weren't lying when you said it gets hot in here either. By the way, holy moly,
It does get hot. Thank
super
you
fun,
so
man.
much.
Thanks for having me.